Welcome to the show, guys. Happy Friday. Got a lot to cover here, including yesterday's game. I want to talk about that, some highlights there, going over some stats, discussing how amazing that game was for fantasy yesterday between the Falcons and the Bucs. And man, was it entertaining. I want to cover that. Also, some latest news and notes. And of course, I want to talk about this very important topic. Is the running back position done? Is it over? Are they purposely trying to, make it go away? Are they purposely trying to create these committees and help us fantasy players lose? Is this the plan? I want to talk about this because it's been a wild year. We got workhorses, including Bijan and Breece Hall and others, just not getting the volume they should be getting. It's been a wild ride, especially at the running back position, particularly the tight end position. Moore has been a disaster as well. And even the wide receivers. Let's just talk about it in general. What is going on in regards to target distribution, because it's been a wild ride. And we can use yesterday's game as kind of a point of reference. I'm going to pull up some stats from that game. So I'm excited to dive in, guys. Happy Friday. I'm really excited, man. My teams are doing well. There's a lot of guys carrying me. Josh Allen, even though he had a bad week last year. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. There's a lot of other players carrying me. Now, I was in a super flex yesterday where I weighed on quarterback and Cousins was my quarterback. I actually have a stack with him, Drake London, and Bijan, and the team's looking really good. I think I've got, in this particular league, based on the scoring format, I'm at almost 85 points between the three players. So I'm very fortunate to have done that and drafted Kirk Cousins that league, and we're going to talk about it. So again, if you're new to the channel, guys, smash it, tap it, slap it. If you like fantasy football content, I'm going to cover that here for you. Hit the thumbs up. #1 fantasy football podcast. Stay glued, turn on the bell, and of course, make sure you guys are following my Instagram for all the wild action. In my story mode, I am releasing all the latest news and notes. And of course, I've got the Patreon group as well, patreon.com/FFCounselor if you guys want direct access, okay? And again, smash that thumbs up. Really helps the channel. Now, if you have any starts and sits questions as well, drop them below. If you have any starts and sits, I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can. Want to make this ultra interactive. If you guys are in the car, head on over to YouTube, guys, and then you could drop your questions on the latest video at fantasyfootballcounselor.com. And I've also created the Counselor's Edge. If you guys are into sports betting against the spread, also if you guys play player props, I deliver my 5 optimal player props of the week, all in the Counselor's Edge, guys. The fantasyfootballcounselor.com. I've also linked it below. I've been perfect the past 3 weeks on the primetime games, spread and money line. Been nailing it yesterday. If you guys are in my Counselor's Edge, are winning right now because you won because I called Atlanta would cover that game. It was a wild and close one. Could have gone either way, but Counselor's Edge, guys, get it below. All right, let's pull up some stats here. Again, hit the thumbs up and drop your comment below. Let's pull up some stats from yesterday's game here. Man, what a wild game. It was thoroughly entertaining. Now, I rarely Thursday night games, if they're boring or if a particular team takes a particular lead or something's going on where it's kind of boring or I don't really have a lot of fantasy relevance, I'm just I turn it off. But this one, I was glued because, again, in my Superflex league, I have Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Bijan. I've got Bijan, a bunch of other leagues. And first and foremost, let's talk about what the guys did well. Kirk Cousins, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 34.4 fantasy points. Drake London, 12 receptions for 154 yards and a touchdown. Got that touchdown very early. I was very happy. Then he got hit. It didn't look like much of a hit anyway. It was, he got kind of shaken up. Then he was pulled out, went to the locker room. Fortunately, he came back. I'm so glad that he did because that would have been total BS. I hate how they pull these guys out for stuff that doesn't look that serious. It's football. You're going to get hit. You get a hit in the head. It wasn't that bad. It's not like he fell out unconscious or glitched out it wasn't that bad. He got hit. It's football. Let him shake it off and let him get back in. But they pull him to the sideline, concussion protocol, blah, blah, blah. Let the guy play. Fortunately enough, like I said, they brought him back. He was playing. It was really good. Okay, Darnell Mooney had the game of his life. 105 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, 31.5. Now, he looks like a viable flex option moving forward. Now, understand this was a high-volume game. 509 yards, guys, for Kirk Cousins. This was wild. So we're looking at 26 attempts, right? 61.5 completion rate. That's week 1. 42 completions on 58 attempts. I was reading that. Take that back. 58 attempts. I'm that looks a little low, 26 attempts. 58. Now, if you look at his typical games, 35 attempts, 29, 26 as a point of reference on the year, right? But this week, just wild. Like I said, 58 attempts, 42 completions, 114 passer rating, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like absolutely wild stats for our cousin Kirk Cousins here. Absolutely wild. So is that sustainable? No. I mean, it was a primetime Cousins game. It was a good matchup. He was playing from behind most of the game. He kept trying to come back, trying to get the score. And he did well, man. I give him props. And again, Darnell Mooney having himself a great game. We talked about it. Baker Mayfield also got to give credit to him. 180 yards passing, 42 rushing yards, 23.4 fantasy points. And Mike Evans having a good game, 23.2. Young Ho Koo, man, the kicker, 16 fantasy points. Kyle Pitts, again, we've got a high volume game. So a lot of people asking, like, do we trust Kyle Pitts moving forward? I don't know, man. It's tough. It was, like I said, a high volume game. We just talked about it. Is this sustainable? Probably not. But based on the way the tight end position's going right now, you're almost like, I got to start him. I got to play Kyle Pitts next week. You just got to do it. I think they're playing Carolina. Double check your listings, okay? Turn the bell of the channel. I'm going to be doing starts and sits next week. So, yeah, I just don't know if it's sustainable. That's the issue I have with Pitts, okay? A couple other things I want to talk about. Let's talk about the Bijan situation here. Had himself a bad game. I mean, he only had 10.7 points, 61 yards rushing, 3 receptions for 16 yards receiving. And I think he's like sitting as like RB23 on the weeks, on the season, just not doing good. Now, again, is there some sort of like plan that the NFL is saying, hey man, let's phase out these running backs. Let's screw fantasy teams. Is that what is going on? And I would probably venture to say yes. Yes. It's not looking good. Like I'm going to pull up some stats here, some running backs. And we got to talk about this because this is very important. These are workhorse running backs, and we need to have this conversation. Why aren't they performing? So I'm going to pull up the stats right here. As you can see here, we got Derrick Henry on the top, Alvin Kamara on the top here, doing good. Let me just pull this up here. You guys aren't seeing the full scope. There we go. That looks better there. Okay, so we got Alvin Kamara on top, 106 fantasy points on the season. We're talking PPR numbers. Saquon Henry. Now, all workhorses, all performing on top, which is great. We got Kyron, doing well. Again, 81.6 points. What do you have here? He's averaging, you got 5 touchdowns, 3.5 yards per carry. That needs to come up. Jordan Mason, who's CMC's replacement, is doing good, top 5 to be expected in that offense. Then you get like a bunch of guys, Jonathan Taylor, again, all workhorse. So everything's looking good. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Bijan top 10 right now, okay? And here's the thing, right? When you're looking at Bijan and Breece Hall, now where's Breece Hall sitting? 14th and 10. These guys are young, they're durable, they're workhorse running backs. They shouldn't be involved in a committee. Yet they continue to be in a committee, which is something that is very frustrating. But I want to just lay this out so we kind of look at it, discuss it. Is this going to be an issue? And it looks like it's going to be an issue. Now, going into the season, we saw what Arthur Smith did last year to Bijan. He wasn't getting him the work. He just wasn't. And they're like, he is the better out of the 2 running backs. Like, Algier is not good. And what blew my mind about yesterday's game, which was a total mind blow, was when Algier was on those game-winning drives. It's like, where is Bijan? Where's your best player? He was on the bench watching at the sideline, and Algier wasn't doing good. Like, he was like running for negative yardage. It was like 1st and 10, and then it became like 2nd and 12. I'm like, what are you doing? You're wasting precious plays trying to run the ball with sucky Algier. Now, you could amount this to, or, chalk this up to an injury. Bijan's been dealing with hamstring. That's very possible. But I just don't like seeing Algier there. It's frustrating. And we see this a lot with a lot of players. Now, let's take a look here. Let's just take a look at some numbers. We're number crunching here, right? When you look at a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, right, who has 54 attempts on the season, you got Montgomery with 63, and Jahmyr is still top 8 right now, 5 weeks in, right? Now, imagine if Montgomery went away. They just did away with him or he got hurt. Jahmyr Gibbs is the best running back in the game, right? Like, he's got 54 attempts with Montgomery there, right? Imagine if Montgomery was gone. We have over 100 attempts, and we're talking like the best running back in the game in Jahmyr Gibbs. So there's a pest there. Now, I'm surprised Aaron Jones is doing well, but again, that's where volume kicks in. 63, he's got no committee. 63 attempts, 5 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. There's, on the ground, 1 receiving. So he's doing well. Aaron Jones washed up. I can't believe he's doing that well. Minnesota's surprising a lot of people, including myself. I can't believe they're doing that well, okay? But these guys aren't really consistent. Even though they're top 10, some of these guys are not consistent. So like Charbonnet, he had the 1 week without, Walker there. Walker comes back, does well, right? Like, let's take a look at Walker's stats here. Last week in week 4, 12 attempts, 80 yards, 6.7 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns, and 33 fantasy points. So Walker's back, and then he gets the action. It kind of screws up, Charbonnet. But again, why aren't these guys performing? Why isn't Byjan getting the volume? Why is Breece Hall 56 attempts? Why are they splitting? And if I filter by team here, right, I'm going to pull it up and filter by team. I'm going to pull up the New York Jets. We got to take a look at this and address this. New York Jets, on the year, Braylon Allen has 27 attempts compared to the 56. He's still getting his work. He's got a rushing touchdown, hoarded away. They're working the rookie Braylon Allen. So again, this is a combination of committees. This is a combination of maybe the team, like the Jets didn't do well last week. It's a combination of that, but it's concerning. It's disappointing. I can go through every position and kind of analyze this, but should we be concerned? Yes, we should, because the workhorse running back, they're trying to do away with them. They want to get rid of them. They want to work in guys, and it's crazy because we see teams succeeding with the workhorse. We saw how well Derrick Henry did in week 4. Working, they brought in Justice Hill. He's getting some work, especially in the receiving game. But overall, they're running their workhorse. Even Saquon Barkley's got no committee, and he's doing well. So what do we do? How do we plan towards this? What do we do? At the end of the day, man, you got to ride it out because nobody's safe. Like when you look at these running backs, right? Who is really safe? Okay, you're a James Cook owner. Cool, right? But he's not having that. Like last week, 5.8 points for James Cook. Okay, you're like, okay, yeah, I got James Cook. He's a, top, what is he? Top 12 back. But like, are you completely out of the woods? No. Or Devin Achane, top 11 right now, PPR amongst running backs after 4 weeks. Okay, cool. If you look at the stats, though, 8.8 points, right? Unacceptable. 5.9. He had the first 2 good weeks, and then after that, crap the bed. Why is that? And again, a big part of that is the quarterbacks, right? We have so many injuries happening. So it's not just the player, right? Like again, Byjan last week, everyone's ripping on me. Okay, yeah, injury. Maybe it's a hamstring, right? Maybe that's a factor, right? When you look at Achane, right? Not getting the volume. It's the quarterback change. The offense is struggling. There's a mess. How about James Cook, right? Looked good. Bad week last week. Offense change. It's like nobody seems to be wanting to stay consistent. Like nobody wants to say, hey man, I'm going to be consistently throwing this week. Like we even see Josh Allen not throw it out. We see Justin Herbert, a quarterback that throws more than pretty much anybody, not throwing the ball. And they don't even have a good running backs. They don't even have a good situation with the Chargers, with their running backs. I mean, like what a disaster they are. Like, so again, let's just look at these running backs again. When you're looking at it, so there is some guys at the top, respectively and understandably so. Like Taylor now, he's dealing with an injury, so that's gonna affect him too. I don't even know if he's playing this week. Okay, I don't think he is. So Mason Williams, all these guys, good, right? Aaron Jones, again, I'm surprised he's doing well, but he's the workhorse there. Gibbs and Montgomery is a disaster. Montgomery's got to go away, but Gibbs gonna slide up. Byjan, again, still top 10, but not sexy, not attractive at all. Okay, and again, you're probably including the week 5 here. That's why he's got more points here. So he's going to probably go down. Devin Achane, James Cook here, Zach Charbonnet, Breece Hall, Brian Robinson. I mean, Washington doing better than expected. Chuba, J.K. Dobbins, James Conner, even James Conner, right? You think, oh, I'm safe. I got James Conner. Well, if you look at it last week, 18 points, but in week 3, 3.5 points. So inconsistency there. Is that going to continue? Something to monitor. Tony Pollard, Ken Walker, and then Swift had been sucking. He's 23rd, but he only had that one good game, right? Inconsistent there. Swift, 5 points, 8 points, 6 points, and then 29 points last week, had the game of his life. So again, what do you do? I mean, you got to ride it out. These are your workhorse running backs. These are the guys you drafted early. These are the guys that you basically took to prom, right? You can't just say, I'm going to give up on Byjan. Who are you going to start? What are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? Who else? This is what I'm saying. You got to go heavy running back. Now, I'm very fortunate in a lot of leagues that I have a Saquon Henry stack. It's just the way that it worked out because I was drafting after the 7th position. There's not a lot of leagues where I drafted early on. So after round 6, Byjan was not falling. And you guys are blaming me on Byjan. He was a top 6, 7 pick overall. Consensus-wise, it is okay. It is what it is. But you guys have to have depth at this position because it's so slim and trim, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's committees everywhere. So, in a nutshell, are they trying to screw up fantasy teams? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of betting sites out right now, right? There's a lot of prop sites where, they want to have some uncertainty when you're playing player props. They don't want you to like, okay, Byjan's guaranteed that amount of volume. So yeah, maybe there is a hand in there when it comes with the leagues and these betting sites, because you never know, right? Like you can't make it that obvious. So, hey man, Byjan's looking too close to making his prop. Let's put Algier in. You never know. There could be something going on. We know for sure, and I did a video on Is the Fix In, that the NFL actually can fix games. They can do that. They're allowed. It's an entertainment company, and they're allowed to fix games legally. So, they can do that. And maybe that's part of the script or whatever. But I don't think every game is fixed. I don't think the bubble players, if you're not like a main big name, and you're not paid millions upon millions, and you're just basically the bubble player or the guys that are second or third string, they're not in on this. But I'm telling you, man, like there is a design here, right? Like the Chiefs, everybody is now opening their eyes up to the Chiefs and the refs. Like this is something that really wasn't talked about as much 5-10 years ago. When I was talking about it back in 2016, when I'm like, Peyton Manning's going to win the last Super Bowl. The guy was throwing beach balls that game. If you guys watch the Super Bowl there, he was playing the superpower Panthers that year, and he was throwing beach balls. They still managed to win. They're like, let's give Peyton his last win. They did the same thing with a ton of other players as well, okay? So, again, you got to take a look at the whole picture here and say, hey, man, like they're going to be messing with our props. They're going to be messing with fantasy a little bit, and you got to be aware of that, okay? Not much we could do. I mean, short of yelling on social media, tagging players and stuff, which I don't recommend you do, or what are you going to do? I mean, we got to make the best. We got to kind of adapt to the way the game is right now. I mean, like if you look at last night, right, I'm going to pull up yesterday's game, and it's just wild because you got guys that like shouldn't be getting the ball. Like Hodge got that one touchdown at the end, right? But if you look at Ray McCloud, like 12.6 points, like Ray was a big part of that game. Again, it was a high volume game, a little bit off, but like Ray McCloud, like nobody's got him. And then Mooney, like nobody drafted. I mean, he was drafted later in rounds, but just wasn't a major target in fantasy drafts. So there is players that can emerge. There's things that happen, injuries happen. Like look at the Rams, right? The Rams top wide receivers are down. I expected injury to happen to one or two of those guys. I didn't expect it to happen that fast to both of them. So I avoided Puka, and I avoided Cooper Kupp because I knew something was going to happen. But I avoided CMC. I was able to mitigate the risk. And fortunately for me, knock on wood, I've only got one injury this all year. I've had Ferguson go down, but he's back. So I haven't been hit by the injury bug, knock on wood, because I'm able to scout out players in 16 rounds to avoid and mitigate the risk. If I see a sign of injury in the past, it's probably going to happen again. And I tend to avoid those players. I've learned it through the years. Guys like Jordan Reed and stuff like I never had Reed, the tight end. I remember Reed used to get hurt a lot. And there's certain players that were always kind of hurt over and over and over. Anyways, guys, I had to go on a bit of a rant here, but yeah, I mean, this is the new NFL. They are basically changing things. It seems like they're messing us up a little bit, right? Like there's players that shouldn't be getting volume. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like Byjan is the most talented guy. If you just got to keep feeding him, you got to keep opening up opportunities, let him run the ball. You don't bring Algier at the end of the game when you're trying to win the game and he's rushing for negative yardage. It's not going to help you. Either way, they somehow pulled out a win either way. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it, guys. I hope you have an outstanding weekend. Again, make sure you guys join the counselors. So you actually start getting ahead of the curve. You get ahead of these guys and make sure you have your best chance at winning, enhancing that game watching experience. Okay? Counselor's Edge, I've linked it below. Smash it, tap it, hit the thumbs up. And again, if you have any questions, drop them below. I'll try to get to them. Have an outstanding weekend, guys. I'll try to do some content on the weekend as well. We'll talk soon. And what a wild, wild game Thursday. And go back. I did a starts and sits episode for all the optimal players at each position. We'll talk soon, guys. Appreciate you. I'm out.